investigation arising from the presidential election. We still have with us a lawyer and a former second vice president of the NBA, Bondo Bani. He joins us via Zoom. We have analyst Benga Olorunpomi, who is also joining us via Zoom, as well as another lawyer who is joining us in the studio, Lainka Daniels. Thank you all for staying with us. Just before that break, Mr. Bani was speaking as to the conduct of the presidential election and all of these issues arising, and he doesn't seem to be pleased with INEC. But let me get your thoughts on some of the issues Mr. Albani raised.
Yeah, well, like I said, I'll give them 70. They've not done badly, except for the hiccups there. But the part I also have
Benga said 9 over 10, which is 90%. Is that too high?
Even 70, given the 70,
high for INEC?
Any 70 is A. 70 still falls an A. He has done 90 by 10. I am doing 70. Any score, when you have 70 in any grade, that is still A. So more like
A plus and A minus and B plus and B minus. But I just want, I'm asking you because look, people who really feel like INEC has not done well in these elections also have their reasons for saying that.
Yeah.
But can we say that, look, INEC, it was really actually 90 over 100 or 9 over 10?
I can say 9 over 10 because I expected more. That's the reason why I'm not patting them. I expected more. And also, I will not say that they have not done well. That's the reason why I'm doing 70. For instance, you had moved election from 11 to 18. Number of people fixed their engagement for 18th of March, knowing fully well that your calendar says election will be 11th. There are marriages that are cancelled today. There are events, people traveled to cast their vote today. And by the time they look at the time this announcement came, but people were already in, President Barry had already gone to Daura. In fact, there are a number of states, Kaduna and some other states, maybe a few states, they had moved sensitive materials to different places. And then you came up with this announcement. So no, so what happened to those sensitive materials? And we want a perfect election, or maybe, well, if it's maybe not perfect, but at least we want something reasonable, something that we can, at least we can say, yes, we give you 80% of election. There's no election that is perfect anywhere in the world. But when we say want to give you 80%, then things like this should, I mean, we need to, economically, politically, every other way. This 1 week is a lot to so many people. A lot has happened. Even the wonderful INEC, we just told you how, some states had moved sensitive materials. They're still going to move maybe some people. I'm sure even the media crew, some media crew would have moved to different states to capture and all this. So all this thing would have affected a lot of people. So reason why you had to, step up your game. You had 4 years, like Mr. Ibani said. I agree. I totally agree. But my own point is, you must have done everything. You must have worked wonderfully well. Put all resources in place to get your, project or your job delivered. And anything, that line is very key. It can happen anywhere. It can happen to anybody. And that is the reason why I'm not going to act INEC and say they have not done well. But what I'm saying is they can do better than what they are giving us today. They had ample time. Yes, they've been progressing. Now we have beavers. Tomorrow I want a better, a seamless election, maybe by 2027, as in something better for us. So now if you have that in mind, all these hiccups that we've been having, there are a number of things that have been repeated that we had in the past elections.
That we continue to have even today, like issues around logistics.
So work harder.
One wonders why logistics is
so that, we can have a better election.
With what we're seeing today, do you expect last turnout on Saturday? Could this lead to voter apathy?
So, with what transpired in the last election, in the presidential election, I don't think that anything above 32% turnout will be an anomaly, because the turnout in the presidential is a good indicator of what will happen at the state election. For the issues that came up, I'm sure, and one thing I love about INEC is that they learn as they move along. Every election has improved has been an improvement on the last one. And I hope that, but again, I think some of the criticisms they have been suffering has been harsh. It wasn't INEC that said Naira should not be available. It wasn't INEC that took the National Road Transport Workers in Lagos to court that they shouldn't provide service to INEC because it was Labour Party that did that. It wasn't INEC that took itself to court and delayed made it such that a pronouncement of the court had to be what would have allowed INEC to reconfigure the machines. So INEC has been dealing with the hand they've been dealt, and they've been dealing with it as well as I believe they can. If we are going to criticize, I think we should always put it in context. People are asking for perfect elections. In America, they've enjoyed democracy for 200 years. The last election they held, the last presidential election they held, was riddled with a lot of issues. Some counties that used to have 10 voting points reduced to 2. And as we speak, there are over 150 amendments nationwide to elections, to modify our elections hold in America. So, trying to, bring out your anger because your candidate lost and put it on INEC, I think it's not fair. But again, they learn as they go. Do I expect the next election to be better organized than the last one? Absolutely. Because INEC, they always learn as they move along.
All right, so a lot of lessons to learn, but I want to move away from INEC and now focus on the gubernatorial election. Let me bring in Mr. Obani. We saw, and everyone continues to speak to that, I think Benga also mentioned it earlier, a shift in the electoral map during the presidential election. What do you expect the voting pattern to look like for the gubernatorial election? Are we likely to see a repeat of what happened during the presidential election? Or you think that the dynamics will be totally different? Because people say that governorship elections are usually very local.
Yeah, you are very correct. It's very local. There are some states, obviously, that will be yearning for a change of the kind of leadership that have been in power for many years. And that's like my state, Abia, one political party has held the state hostage for over 20-something years, and there is no reciprocal improvement in terms of other human or infrastructural development. So people are yearning for change in that state. I also know some few states, that may likely also probably change the kind of leadership that have occupied their various states over time and all that. So it's really local. The dynamics may be a bit quite, different. But let me also say, with the national election, National Assembly election, I understand that INEC transmitted the result of that online, real life. And that was why, when my friend was mentioning some of the governors who lost their position and all that, those ones, there were no issues because it was done, INEC complied with their own even electoral guideline. But when it comes to issue of presidency, I don't know whether it was in that particular place that most of them lost their password and all that. But at the end of the day, INEC is expected to improve in this general election, the one that is coming up on the 18th. And the chairman himself has made some promises. Look, that there's going to be an improvement, especially in transmitting the result electronically from the polling unit. It's very, very important that that is done because we don't need a situation where you begin to pursue people. And we are now going back to 2011 election that took place under 2010 Electoral Act, where everything was done manual. Remember that it took almost 3 days for the presidential result to be declared. Whereas in Osun, I think a night or less than 24 hours, everyone knew who was the governor of Osun State and others. So that's the kind of improvement we want, which the Electoral Act has reflected in 2022 Act. And we wanted INEC also to catch up with the level of improvement we have done with our act, with now physical application of the law, but it fell short. But we believe that with the next elections and all that, there will be, a very smart move on the part of INEC to correct some of the anomalies that took place in the previous election. And that is the truth.
Let me bring conversation back to you, Mr. Alainka Daniels. We saw, I think it was Menga who mentioned earlier that, look, APC for the first time narrowly lost Lagos. We saw Kaduna also being taken by, I think that was the PDP. The president also lost his state. And it's not just within the APC alone. We also saw PDP also losing some states as well. We saw a shift Is that likely also going to play out, especially in states like Lagos? Delta is a really strong battleground today because the introduction of the Deputy Senate President into the race, people say, look, that has also changed things. The incumbent governor is not running. He now has a successor, someone who he believes is a successor, rather. In some states like the Rivers, people believe it's also a battleground state. There is Adamawa also being a battleground state, and that's the state where you're seeing a woman for the first time being running for governorship position. How do you expect? Yes, absolutely, a couple of them. How do you expect that things to actually play out?
Well, like I'm sure we all agree that politics is local. Yeah. So what we need to take note of during the presidential election, there was a movement, there was an agitation, and there's some group of people wanted a particular candidate. And all over, we could see that in display. Now, we are back to local. Now, there are candidates that they will first check, what have you delivered? Do you deserve to be a governor? Now, that movement now, don't forget, it was about the presidency. To an extent, maybe in few states, it may still work, but in most of the other states that we saw the shift, I do not see that happening. What I see happening now, everybody comes back, and even those people that voted for a particular candidate.
In a place like Lagos, you see that happening because people feel like, look, there are two sides of the coin. People are saying, for example, that movement you're talking about was actually about the presidency. Yes. People came together and said, we want to so-and-so person. And so it might not trickle down to the state elections. Others are saying, look, they might also, some people might also, ride on that and use that to also win the election. Do you think that at this point people are like, look, we have done the part that we want to do. We don't care for these other parts?
Well, it may not be the election as usual we used to see in Lagos that we know where it will go. Maybe a little bit of, pinch of change here and there. And people will say, oh, it's not as usual, so you need to work. Now, how do I come to this? Before this presidential election, before Lagos was taken over, the candidate of a particular party was really known in Lagos. But immediately that movement happened, immediately they saw that, wow, so we can win Lagos. Then that particular candidate capitalized on that. Then it went around, started campaigning, and those other people, some people were still joining. But now, we need to understand that some people did not come out to vote in Lagos during the presidential election. There were also issues among some political parties, factions. They were angry in that same election. Now, all that we put in place, all those political parties will have to put their house in order because they are seeing what happened. And by that time, those people that did not vote during the presidential election will surely come out. And some of this wonderful group that we are talking about, because I was an observer, and the truth is, I was out there, and I can tell you that you could still count number of youths that came out to vote. Maybe the few ones that they were showing on social media, they were making noise everywhere, but I can tell you that number of them were playing balls on the road. I will even go, why are you not voting? Please, we don't have time for all those, but they know who is going to win. These are still the people we are talking about. So now, coming back to that, number of them will not still vote. A number of them will still vote for different parties because now this is not that candidate they are looking at. And number of them also, with the anger of the movement, the answer, whatever, they still want to insist on that. We don't want to know whether this person is capable or not. So you can't rule it out. You will have that. But I can tell you that is local. All parties will come back to the drawing board and they will do their work, and we're going to get more votes. Write it. You will see the result of Lagos. I don't see any shift in Lagos as to governorship. I do not say it. Yeah, it may be tight. May not be the usual way of getting results in Lagos, because now, in the days of writing results is over. We have beavers now. So you don't just go to some baba something or some woman somewhere and write out.
You think that the APC will be able to retain Lagos?
Well, I can say that with all sense of responsibility, I can give them 70. They will retain Lagos. APC will retain Lagos.
All right. So I would take I would hold you by that word.
We will come back.
We'll definitely come back and do this analysis.
I've never failed. Anyone I say I've never failed.
Okay, don't worry, maybe I'll just get your result from every state.
Right.
Let me bring in Benga. How do you also see this panning out? Because we're seeing a lot of alliances in different states. In Nasarawa, we understand that the Labour Party is now aligning with the PDP. I think that also happened in Rivers as well, where Labour Party is aligning with PDP. Oshu, and then we'll see in some states Labour Party and majorly Labour Party aligning with some other parties. Labour Party is also aligning with some, in some APC states. How do you expect these alignments? What do you think would come out of these alignments? Let me also bring in Kano, where it looks more like it's a battle and contention between two big wigs, and not even necessarily their candidates, because their candidates look like they've been lost in this election. We talk about Kwankwaso, and then we talk about Ganduje, who is the current governor. How do you expect some of these alliances and some of these big wigs in this particular state, issues around that to play out?
So I've always believed that Nigerians pay too much attention to the presidential and National Assembly elections than they do to the gubernatorial and the state elections. That's always been my belief. But I think this time around, with what happened with the presidential election, we might, for the first time, get a lot of upsets in certain unexpected places. I'm happy that one of the fellow commentators on this program has said that he wishes that Abia State gets a new governor from another party. I hope that happens. In Adamawa, I hope that Nigerians and especially Northerners show the world that they are not as backward as they think they are, and vote in the first female governor who's of the APC extraction. I hope that in Rivers, that despite what happened during the general election, that the APC candidate there does his best to upturn that election and win. And also, I look forward to the situation where a state like Ogun State reward the good work that the governor is doing. And down to Lagos, it's clear that the best performing governor, at least of this particular era, is the current governor of the state. And he has done enough, more than enough, to deserve the second term, from infrastructure to housing to, even health insurance here in Lagos. He's done exceedingly well. And I know for a fact, the other man said 75. I'm insistent that I have 98%. I'm 98% convinced that he's going to return. And and that's down also to the fact that even the Labour Party here in Lagos, with whatever momentum they have two candidates. There are two people claiming to be the gubernatorial candidate of the Labour Party in Lagos, while the PDP is really nowhere to be found at this time. So I'm 100% confident that Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu will be returned in Lagos. Yes, this particular election will be a demonstration of true support, because Bivas is there to ensure that people there's less likelihood of rigging, and even when rigging takes place, it will be found out and those polling units will be cancelled. So yes, I look forward to an election that is fully bought into by the people, and the results will be accepted because it is the people's mandate.
Let me bring Mr. Albani. Mr. Albani, what sort of shift do you expect? Because you were saying earlier about Abia State you're hoping for a change in government and governance in that state. What sort of change do you expect at some of these battleground states? There's Rivers, there is Lagos, there is Delta, there is Abia, there is Adamawa. What do you expect?
Yeah, it's the dynamics that will determine the outcome. As you rightly pointed out, there are some states where some people are collapsing their structures into other political parties. Of course, when there is combined effort by two major political parties in the state, they can cause an upset. And so I will expect some major changes. Now that we are in democracy, my own appeal is that people's will must prevail, must be allowed to prevail. There shouldn't be any violence. There shouldn't be any disruption of the electoral process, because it is majority that will have their way, while the minority will have a say. And so if the majority say this is the person that will rule us, it makes, what it helps is that it helps governance, because the person that is being elected by the majority will actually owe responsibility to those who have elected him and be very conscious of doing certain things to please them, because he knows in the next 4 years that he will come back for them to actually be re-elected. So issue of allowing the people's way to prevail is what I'm asking everyone to do. That political enlightenment, either in Abia, either in Enugu, either in Lagos, let the people's will prevail. And then I'm very happy with Beavers. As my brother in the listener said, the Beavers now has stopped this issue of flamboyant and fictitious figures that we hear from certain states. Now Beavers will spot those things out. If you go and thumbprint in your reading room and all that, it is not going to be possible. So what we also pray for is having enlightened agents who insist on things being done properly. One, any result that is announced must be recorded. Every political agent must sign and collect a copy of the result sheet, and then try as much as possible to snap it, when being held by the electoral officer. Snap it and keep it. And so that if a different result from your polling unit is declared, then you arm your lawyers with chances of success in court and all that. So this is a enlightening period, and power is returning back to the people. What I know is that Nigeria will not remain the same with the improvement we have had in the electoral process, and the power is now returning to the people. We are now going to have a responsible government where a son of nobody can become whatever he wants to be, because there will be responsible governance all over the country because of the issue of people determining those who govern them. Very critical. When people are elected by majority, they owe you responsibility. But when they force themselves through rigging in order to come to power, they owe you no responsibility. That's why they do anything with impunity. But now we're seeing most of them now running helter-skelter in order to do the right thing. In my own state, a governor has to promote civil servants 2 days to election. And for 8 years, you were in power, you never promoted any person. So all of them are running helter-skelter because they know the power has been restored to the people. So I am very happy with the improvement in the electoral process. But let people's will be allowed. Don't fight. Don't go and use gun. Don't disrupt the system. Allow peaceful election. It is about leadership. It's about people that will make the country to be a better country for ourselves, for our children, for our children. And this is the time for us to start. And I want every Nigerian to participate in the electoral. Don't stay in home. Don't stay at home. Don't watch television. Don't play football. Come out and be able to choose those that can govern you. That is a responsibility. It's a civic one we must fulfill.
Absolutely. We have to continue to encourage people to come out and vote, and then vote for the candidate of your choice without any pressure. Vote for the person you really want to see in power. And, we'll continue to monitor and see what some of these alliances will birth, the impact of some of these alliances we're now seeing in states, what it would do to shift the electoral map. We also have our eyes on the voter turnout for the gubernatorial election. TVC News will be live across, all the 28 states that will be participating in the gubernatorial election, and other states where House of Assembly elections will also be holding, but no gubernatorial elections. Thank you so much for watching. Let me thank my guest, lawyer, Mr. Olalayinka Daniels. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Also, analyst Benga Olorukbomi, thank you so much for joining us. And lawyer and former second national vice president at the NBA, Mr. Monday Ubani, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And that standpoint, remember you can watch again at 11 p.m. tonight and 5 a.m. on Sunday morning. Thank you so much for watching. I am Precious Amayo.
Never miss a moment. Instant breaking news from all over the globe. Live streaming of your favorite programs delivered directly to you. Watch anytime from anywhere on your mobile or smart devices. Download the TVC News app today. Available on Google Play and Apple Store.
It's always a great morning on the TVC Breakfast Show.
Thanks for joining.